Hey there, welcome to Politics Show. I'm Tommy. I'm going to just talk about two things. One's World War I and one's this ISIS or ISIS as we call them on the news. I'm really want to kind of link the both of them. We start off with the kind of 14 in the date. So you have 1914, obviously when First World War started, and then you've got like 2014 now. So it's a 100-year kind of gap. Now the thing that kind of made me link both, and it's just my interpretation. It doesn't mean to say it's true. But it certainly kind of jumped out at me when I looked at it. I was on MSN and I saw that on there was a story about how the First World War began. And I thought, okay, I know bits about that. So I started looking at it, and it's Countess Sophie and Archduke Ferdinand and so on, and assassinated with a Serb or a Serbian person, and basically kind of went from there. And kind of like manifested itself into World War One. By the time Germany ran over bits of Europe through Luxembourg and into France and then Belgium as well. We went to Belgium to like kind of take over bits and pieces, and then UK get involved and so on. So anyway, that was kind of that. Then I looked at this BBC news site, and it was saying that ISIS rebels declare Islamic State. And that's almost like obviously they're walking across the different lands, and they're jumping up in different lands and kind of sleeper pockets, whatever, and they're starting to kind of overtake things. And I couldn't help think it's not even a coincidence. I mean, it seems to be very, very real. It certainly is real. But the dates, this is the 30th of June 2014, and the 28th of July was the First World War, the kind of like the start of these kind of movements of World War One. And it seems to be all about the same sort of time that there's things going on in the 100-year gap. Yeah. So the timelines I've got here is basically the 20th of July, Austria declares war on Serbia. Yeah, 1914. Okay. And then we've got, today's the 30th of June 2014, and we've got ISIS rebel states declare Islamic State. They're already pushing across. And you had the Schlieffen Plan, which was the German interpretation of how you should actually go to war, and it was like a kind of strategy they had, and that was the 1st of August 1914 that Germany declares war on Russia, and it avoided Russia, went round the back way, it kind of went through Luxembourg and avoided Russia when it started walking across different bits of land. But the Schlieffen Plan swung into operation really on that day, and we're not far away from that. We're only 4 weeks away from that in the present timeline, roughly, and you've got this ISIS already doing that sort of walking across places. So they're in the Middle East. They've took bits of Syria, bits of Iraq, and so on, and they're starting to make movements. And then you have William Hague in the present time, 2014, looking at now, trying to talk, rules out military action right now, and so on. And these are similarities with the First World War. No, I'm trying to say there's going to be a Third World War here. It's the last thing I want to be saying. But I mean, I just kind of help see similarities in history. And I can't remember who it was that said it, but you don't let history repeat itself. And I'm sure that these guys who are in power in the different countries of the Western world and Eastern worlds and so on, surely will try and prevent any catastrophes happening here. We have there's a group there moving across the Middle East. It's not connected to any type of government. It's a new type of their way of thinking, and they're then justifying their walking and their marching and their kind of overtaking, if you like, of countries and areas. They're justifying it on their ideologies and what they believe. But you've got the hopefully, I mean, the British, Americans and so on, and they're trying to work at it right now in the present day, 2014. They're trying to make sure that this is a situation in the Middle East that's kind of kept under control to some degree and doesn't threaten the rest of the national security of the world. And I think that's very vital and important, because you used to have to look back the 100 year and see the mistakes that were made. And the mistakes that were made was that, well, basically, countries were going to go to war, and they did go to war, and one country in particular kind of picked on another country who remained nameless, and pretty much, what happened from there was a domino effect, because nobody's going to kind of step down from that, and nowadays especially, because maybe your education, intelligence, and all the rest of it wasn't as elite as it is now, and I mean elite in every single person, because even the people who you would class as maybe not university educated or college educated have a really lot of knowledge, and education really through internet and so on, and there is some sort of awareness there, better than what there was in 1914. So it's interesting that how then there wasn't that kind of ability to actually say, no, stop, this is wrong. They actually went ahead with it, and people followed. I mean, I was reading a thing where people were queuing out outside all the different places to join the army. Now, I wonder if they'd have done that if they knew it was ahead of them for the next 4 years to 1918. You know, and this is why we kind of make the same mistakes. And I'm sure that William Hague, a President Foreign Secretary in the UK, and you get John Kerry over in the US, and so on, and even the ministers in Iraq and Iran as well is starting to take to do it. And in Syria, I'm not sure yet what their take is on it yet, but certainly there's people working together, and I think that's a positive sign. But I couldn't help see the similarities of how things can start so easy, and it seems to be a repeat. And immediately I'd thought to myself, is this a deliberate act by this ISIS, we'll call them, I.S.I.S. they're called, ISIS, a deliberate act for them to actually regurgitate what has happened 100 years before. And it almost, I'm honest with you, a political science point of view, I've got to say it almost looks like it is, and it's what I would call the rupture. The rupture is they create they bring back old memories. People are trying to, like, there's obviously the D-Day celebrations where, or the remembrance was not long ago, the other week there. So you have kind of war in people's minds still, even though in its past wars. And these people doing these marches, almost like the Schlieffen Plan, like the Germans done, doing the marches, popping up, taking over bits of pockets of countries, and try to overtake things, and with nobody controlling them, is very dangerous, and dangerous to the present stability we have in the Western and Eastern worlds, and the Middle Eastern worlds. So it's interesting that, and that's just looking at the centre of our kind of map, not looking at the kind of north and the south, far north and far south yet. So we're just looking at the central part, which seems to be where all the trouble in the world appears to start, because it's got most of the kind of pockets of population and powers in the bits of land. But certainly this is, it's getting a lot of coverage on BBC News. And then linking it with the First World War was just something I saw. So I don't know if, Edward Grey was Foreign Secretary then in 1914, and he failed. I just hope they failed to kind of negotiate peace. Hope William Hague can actually put a better input into that. So that's it. So I don't know if you want to kind of comment on this. It's just a kind of random type politics show. It's not really, I can get the political thought of it, but I thought I would just bring that awareness and see what people think about it, because it certainly is something that stands out to me, and maybe you can put comments to see what you think. Yeah, thanks very much, and I'll talk to you later. Politics show on soon, this week, and with more stuff. Thank you, bye bye.